Good afternoon, welcome to Richmond Oval, a beautiful Friday afternoon for the Crows internal trial. You're watching on the club website. Theo Doropoulos in the commentary position, joined by the one and only Premiership captain Mark Bickley. Bix, a warm welcome to you. We're going to see an interesting afternoon of match simulation here, and you've been at the club obviously as Premiership captain. Yep. You've seen a lot of footy and coach as well. What do you look for on an afternoon like today?
Good afternoon everyone that's tuning in. Look, it's just today's... First and foremost, the players love days like today because they've had a huge pre-season and they just want to get out and play, and they get an opportunity. They've done match sim for certain periods of time, but now this is more game-like, and they get an opportunity to put some of the things they've been working on in the pre-season into practice. And Taylor Walker's received a really nice pass, might have been Jake Saligo, and he has a shot on goal.
And he puts it through. So the score... not overly important this afternoon, Bix. We're going to see it chop and change. 25-minute quarters, 4 25-minute quarters, and the first half is basically a probables against possibles. In the blue team, of course, you'll notice a lot of the AFL players, and in the yellow team, well, some emerging players, and of course a few names that you'd like to see in the AFL team or have been in the past, notably Chase Jones, Matt Crouch, Lockie Murphy and Ned McHenry, the four guys who you'd probably say have got the most AFL experience. Yeah,
that's right. And just looking at the centre bounce there, we were talking over the top of the first one, but you've got Josh Rochelle in there, which we've been sort of, I guess, discussing whether he's going to start there, how much time him and Isaac Rankin are going to spend there. So it'd be a great opportunity for him. They go up against some really good midfielders like Crouch and Haitley and others. So this is an opportunity for them.
So Tyler Brown and Jackson Haitley getting involved, and see Isaac Rankin starting forward. Darcy Fogarty's the deepest for the blue team on James Borlace.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting and really good for the Crows forward line to have a look at how they're going to, I guess, gel together. You've got Fogarty, you've got Walker, Thilthorpe, Rochelle, Rankin. There's some really big names there, but they've really got to learn and work together to know how they're going to help each other and become a really sort of potent force this year, because when you look on paper, that looks to be one of the real strengths that the Crows have.
Forward line without doubt settled. Interesting for me to see, Bix, as well, is how much focus goes into Tex. He's a leading forward at the club, in the club's history. He's the #1 goal kicker. He's an absolute star when he's up and running. He looks fit and strong. It's just where there are a couple of different options now for Adelaide.
Yeah, there is. And it's also good for Adelaide in terms of, whilst Taylor's out there and playing good footy, for a lot of clubs, he's still going to draw the best defender, and that's always a great thing for Darcy Fogarty. You know, Darcy's going to be obviously the future of this club, and his second half last year of the season was great, but it's so much easier when you get maybe not the premier defender from each team. So that's what Taylor Walker's going to do, and he's got the experience and the know-how to be able to handle that and give some chop-outs to some of those younger forwards.
One that fans would be looking forward to seeing, Bix, is the yellow team through McHenry and Crouch. Great tackle from Rochelle. Is Wayne Miller now? He's reinvented himself. He's going back into defence. He's had an injury interrupted couple of years, only 12 games in 2022 and only the 2 in 2021. Question marks about, you know, whether he came back a bit too early last year, but he looks as good as I've seen, and when you speak to him, he's so excited for this year being injury-free and fit.
Yeah, and he's like a recruit really, isn't he? Because you're right, we didn't see the best of him last year, and he didn't quite look to be, you know, at real peak fitness, and that was one of the most pleasing things that I heard from Coach Matthew Nix, was talking about him being the highlight of the pre-season, and you know, it's really good to see him in good form. He's got something that Adelaide don't have. He's got polish, he's got poise with the ball in hand, so if he plays half-back or wing and gets the ball through the middle of the ground, once again, delivered to the Adelaide forward line, that's they'll be licking their lips. And the other thing about tonight is just having a look at some of the newer players. We saw Billy Dowling have an entry into the forward 50 there, and there's a number of new guys that a lot of people wouldn't have seen, so we get an opportunity to see how they go against some pressure this afternoon.
Billy Dowling in the number 31 in the yellow side. Hugh Bond as well, a new recruit, number 40. Other than that...
Max Michaelini?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. He had a nice moment out on the outer wing a short time ago, coming over to help as a 2-on-1 with Taylor Walker. He's currently standing Isaac Rankin.
And I think that's going to be the thing about Max. When you look at him, his ability to play on, and Isaac Rankin 1 minute, and then there's an interchange, and McAdam comes on. He's able to play on McAdam as well, and that's one of the real flexibilities that is demanded of the AFL defender these days.
McHenry and Himmelberg, a couple of familiar names, and a flying shot looks pretty good from Lockie Gallant. He had a pretty strong start to last year, didn't he? He was excellent in the showdown, pivotal in turning that game in Adelaide's way. He had a couple of bright spots.
We did, and what he is efficient. We saw some of those games where he kicked 4 goals in a game. He only had 6 touches for the match, and unfortunately, that's often the lot of an opportunist forward. You just got to make the most of them, and we've seen that tonight or today. Just there, he only needs a bit of a sniff or half a chance to be able to put that on the scoreboard. So good work by him. And we talked about Adelaide's strength being its forward line. Well, that's going to be part of the challenge for Lockie Gallant, is to force his way into the side and be able to be a regular player for Adelaide. But he's certainly got the attributes. He's a good size. He can take a mark, and as we saw there, he's pretty good when the ball hits the deck.
Now, looking at the starting midfield, Bix, you probably look at Berry, Schonberg and Laird as your premier men, but in there, the number 22 for the blue team, Isaac Rankin, getting his first look around the centre bounce. That's exciting, and there he is too, winning a free kick on Matt Crouch. What does he add to Adelaide's midfield?
Well, he's just dynamic. He's got the ability. He's got burst speed for a start, but he's also got that great touch. You know, he's a one-grab player. He's got a bit of sideways movement. He can dodge. He can weave. So it's just something that's a little bit different. You know, he's not quite as one-paced, which is a bit of the argument for some of the other Adelaide midfielders. So he's just got that burst.
There's Michael Aney again, doing a good job on Tex Walker. Thilthorpe interests me too. He's just got all the tools, doesn't he? He can get around the ground, play in the ruck, and skills are fantastic.
We just saw that there, though. His body's now bigger, and he was able to move his defender out of the road, got 2 hands to the ball, and it just went through his fingers. I guess that's the next step for him. He's got to be able to convert those half chances into marks, which then, in turn, are converted into shots on goal. And, I think we all had our appetite whet in his first game, 5 goals. We probably hasn't recaptured that form as often since then. So now he's got an opportunity. He looks really fit and looks in good form. He's got a bit of confidence. So let's hope we see that.
Well, there he goes. Keeps it in front this time. And McAdam, opportunistic as ever. I like what he's been able to do recently. Just had a slowish start to pre-season, but looks to be fighting his way back. If you're an opposition defender and you're walking down into the back 50 for round 1 at GWS, and you look at Rochelle, Rankin, Walker, Thilthorpe, Fogarty, McAdam, who else? Pedler maybe starts forward. That's now starting to be a proper intimidating forward 6.
Yeah, it is. And great work by Riley Thilthorpe there. We just talked about imposing himself a bit more. Well, it wasn't Tex Walker's greatest kick. It was at the toes of the big man, but he was able to pick it up, then got tackled. I suspect in his year 1 or year 2, you get tackled like that, you aren't able to get your arms free, the ball goes to ground, and we get a stop play. Now he's got a bit more size. He's able to work his arms free, lays off the handball to McAdam, and it's a score for Adelaide. So they're the type of incremental improvements you get from young players. They might not look big, but they're very important for your team.
Switching the ruck too, Riley Thilthorpe having it cracked. Adelaide's first choice mid at that stoppage, with Laird back in the centre, and here goes Thilthorpe again. You can hear the applause whenever Rankin goes near the pill. Flying snap from Berry's a little wide. But he's, he had an amazing year last year, didn't he, Sam Berry? He doubled almost every category, doubled the amount of kicks he had in 2022 to 2021. He hit the scoreboard too. His tackling was one of the best in the league, if not. He's a very bright spark. Considering you look at him, he looks like he's been at the club 10 years, but he's only in his 3rd season.
He's great. He turns himself out pretty well. He's a tough nut as well. I reckon just that last one, just a bit disappointing from Riley Thilthorpe. The handball just went behind Sam Berry, had to stop, go back, dropped it, then wasn't able to finish off. So those things there, that's the improvement that Adelaide has to find. That was a 1v-none entry into forward 50. It's really just execute the handball to Berry. Berry should just put that straight over the goal umpire's hat. Instead, it's out of bounds on the full, and now the opposition are going back the other way. So they're the little things that Adelaide will be looking to improve. And when you think about that, you do that once a quarter and get that right, all of a sudden it's a 4-goal difference, and Adelaide probably win 3 or 4 more games for the year than what they did last year. So they're the things that Matthew Nix is looking to improve. They're the areas.
How did you feel about practice games as a player? Did it get to this time of year and you're itching to play against each other, or are you thinking, just give me an opposition side?
Well, look, I think you love being out there, but it all depends where you are in the scheme of things. If you're a really established player, you're probably not as pumped up as what you are as if you're a player who's emerging and really trying to break into the side. Because if you're in the yellow team tonight, that's nice delivery there from Rory Laird. If you're in the yellow team tonight, which is the possibles rather than the probables, you're up against a likely starter. You're looking to make an impression against the number one sort of team, and so you're pretty pumped up. But once again, another example of what someone like Isaac Rankin brings. He's got electrifying speed there, so just able to create some separation. And when your forward's got 2 metres on your opponent, it's a much easier kick. You can just flight it a little bit. It doesn't have to be as precise. And Laird was just able to put it out in front of Rankin and took it comfortably. And now shooting for goal from about 40 metres.
You'll hear whether it's any good. So Rankin gives probably 500 or 600 people that have turned up, maybe a bit more when you look out to the northern end, something to cheer about. And that's just super important as a fan too, Bix, isn't it? When you come and you see a new recruit, one with such a high profile around not only South Australia but across the country as well, come and just do something early to settle the nerves and give the crowd something to cheer about.
Well, I think that's the exact thing that we were just talking about. I reckon last year there's a number of times where, whether it's a Taylor Walker or a Darcy Fogarty, they create the separation and then the kick would land at the toes of the player or it'd go over his head. What you want to be able to do is just execute the regulation. So it's that simple brilliance when someone's got a metre to be able to put it out in front of them, they take a mark and then they just go back and finish. And probably the forward entry hasn't been a strength of Adelaide, particularly out of the midfield. So to see Laird really deliver a good one there and for Rankin to finish, that was excellent play. And he averages roughly a goal a game. And what are we? We're still 13 minutes to go in this first quarter, and he's got that one goal, and I think that's what everyone's hoping you're going to see. Maybe a goal or two a half, which would be great work.
Pressure from Pedler. Good to see him back fit too, Bix. He was so raw when he came to the club, wanted to prove to everyone he deserved to be a first-round selection, and now I think it's just that consistency of hitting the track, not missing sessions, gets his body right as Rochelle goes once, twice.
Might have been legged there. That's the call.
Been called back.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Pedler as well, which we made that we had the discussion around Rankin and Rochelle, who are both a bit more dynamic around the ball. Pedler's also got that explosiveness, and he's a bit more of a power athlete. So I think when he comes into the midfield, that's what he adds. That's just a little bit different. So when you start to get every centre bounce, you've got one person in there who's a bit more explosive, who can burst out of stoppage. I think that it just adds another dimension to the Adelaide midfield. Big fella, Riley O'Brien there, standing tall. Just looking at the entry kick, just had me fooled a little bit. Jordan Dawson wearing the number 12, so it looks a little bit different, but and we haven't really made mention of him being appointed as the captain. That's a remarkable effort, really, in such a short space of time to come to the footy club and be able to earn the respect of your teammates and be voted in as the leader. So I'm sure he's looking to have a really bright start to the year. Disappointed with that. Riley O'Brien, 15 metres out.
It's the next part of his game, isn't it, really? Just the ability to drift forward and then convert and hit the scoreboard. He really enjoys getting around the ground and making opposition ruckman work to keep him in check. But so far, as you'd expect, the blue team is going to dominate this first quarter and half, you'd think, with the AFL-listed players. But from a ball movement point of view, Bix, are you liking what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's been, most of the stuff has come from stoppage so far, so we haven't really seen much from D50 to F50, so we'll just keep an eye on it. But they're just a little mistake there from Wayne Miller, just missed the handball.
And they're the ones you're talking about, aren't you? You just put that out in front. That leads you to a goal, and the margin's sort of under a kick by the end of the game.
Well, you look up ahead of the ball, and you've got Riley Thilthorpe one out in the goal square. So that handball hits, you 50 metres, you kick that to advantage, and that's where you bring someone like a Thilthorpe into it. A one-on-one advantage side, he marks that probably 7 out of 10. He's kicking from the goal square. So it's there the little things. Riley O'Brien got it now from 50. like to see him get back a little bit quicker, or whether there's a Hinge or a Rochelle just sniffing around. Just wonder whether you want Riley O'Brien kicking the ball all that much there as Nick Murray's standing right alongside of him. I would have given that handball.
He's got Mitch Hinge to his left. He doesn't want to use him, the big man. Maybe better from this distance. Strikes it okay.
Still think there's a couple of things to unpack there. I just think when you're standing there from 50 and you've got two guys who can kick it either side, give it to them. And secondly, pretty slack from the yellow team. We looked up here and probably for 30 seconds we talked about, there's the opportunity to run by and get a handball and potentially have a shot on goal. And that's a bit of game awareness, isn't it? Riley O'Brien's got the ball. You're thinking from 48 metres out, there's a high likelihood he's going to want to give it off. So just some awareness issues there for the yellow team to understand.
I love that it's a Friday afternoon in Feb and you can still hear the crowd groan when it hits the post. Oh, their premiership points up for grabs. Here's Jones and Michaelani and Parnell. Played pretty well last year, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Good introductions. Yeah, and once again, he kicks the ball really well, which is something that Adelaide are looking to build on in their defence. They're now accumulating Dawson, Smith, Hinge, Miller, if he plays across half-back. You've got Parnell. All those guys are really good kicks, and they trust their leg to be able to take that ball through the middle.
Good tackle from Jones, and then in turn, Berry. It's just that polish out of half-back. We saw last year, there was a time where you'd wish for 22 Jordan Dawson's. He was just had so much impact and was just so good to watch, doing it at both ends of the ground too. You've been the captain in the highest of high-pressure situations for this club twice. Probably the two best days of your career. What sort of added pressure comes with being the captain, now being the star player, and the added responsibility he's going to take? Yeah,
look, it's an interesting one because it can sometimes be a double-edged sword. It really does sort of sharpen your focus because you're making sure that you're setting the right example, that you're doing everything really well. So sometimes, and I saw it with Mark Rasciuto and Simon Goodwin and others, it actually makes you a better player because you feel this responsibility. And for the good players, they love the responsibility and sometimes they relish the opportunity to show what they can do. So I'm hoping that Jordan Dawson at 25, yes, there'll be some hiccups along the way, but I think that he's the type of character who could relish that opportunity and even get better than what we've seen and become a really good player for Adelaide. Not that he isn't already second in the best and fairest last year, but just the added responsibility sometimes makes you even better. Just missed the kick there. It was Chase Jones, and he finds himself just out of the probable team at the moment, so he's looking to impress and just went for a little bit much on that kick.
Is that a concern for you, Bix? He was okay last year. Chase Jones, he had a couple of good moments down back. He sort of found his way in as that replacement, or almost replacement for Luke Brown, who just one of the more unheralded defenders going around. Really could walk down Rundle Mall at times, Luke Brown, and not get spotted. All of a sudden, if you're an opposition forward and you see him walking towards you, you tend to have a bit of a shudder.
Yeah, look, I think probably it's a good thing for the Adelaide Football Club in terms of someone like Chase has been squeezed out of the team.
20 games last year.
Yeah, and so what it says, let's talk about whether it's Wayne Miller or someone of that quality going back through back at half back, and if you've got a high quality player back there, we talked about Smith, we talked about Dawson amongst others. So what that says is you've got some depth, and at some stage that depth is going to be called upon, but it just means the added pressure for spots within the team. Everyone's sort of on edge, making sure they're doing everything they can to get in the side. So I think Adelaide have probably missed a little bit of that, having that pressure from outside the team as Darcy Fogarty uses his body and takes a mark. So, I see that as a really good sign for Adelaide, that there are a number of players like Jones, McHenry, you mentioned others, that find themselves just squeezed out, and they now have to find another level. They have to get better to force their way back in.
Another player who's had a ripping pre-season, Darcy Fogarty, hasn't missed a beat, which is great to see. He spoke quite passionately up in the Riverland about the next generation starting to take control at West Lakes. And that's not what we're used to seeing from him.
I'll tell you what, could have got odds on that, couldn't you? Yeah, quite a texter. I would have almost marked that down. Just looked like he leant back on that kick a little bit, which is unusual because He's got such a beautiful, relaxed and compact kicking style. Maybe a few nerves first set shot at goal, but I think big things we're all looking forward to from Darcy Fogarty. If he can replicate that sort of second half season form, that'll be a great bonus for Adelaide.
Are you happy to hear that he wants to take the mantle from Taylor? Are you happy to hear that he's sort of put the heat on the younger brigade to say, you know, in a couple of years it's going to be our club, we may as well take control of it now?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes with confidence as well, where you feel like, you know, that you belong at the level, you can perform at the level. So you have no problem saying that. When you're not performing and when you're not at the sort of level that you want to be, sometimes you're hesitant to say those sort of things. So good on him that he's sort of been able to get to that level. Just saw a snapshot from Isaac Rankin. I sort of almost thought the minute he sort of backed out of that pack and swung around and was going to go through for a goal. And he's just shown that he's going to find that footy in the front half of the ground.
It's the voice of Premiership captain Mark Bickley. Theo Doropoulos joining you as well. 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes left in the first term of the internal trial here at Richmond Oval, and the blue team made up by the predominantly AFL side, if not the first choice AFL side, leading 21-7. But you'll see that change a little bit throughout the afternoon. You'll see the players chop and change as well, as Matthew Nicks tries a few different scenarios later on in the afternoon. Not long till round one. Bix is there. It comes around pretty quickly.
It does, and for me, in my mind, it's such an even season. You know, you look at the teams that finished inside the top 8 last year. I feel like a lot of those teams have actually got a little bit better. You know, you look at Brisbane and some other teams in there. Fremantle, Luke Jackson comes across. You know, Geelong have recruited a couple of players. You know, Sydney are a young side who are, you know, most people think will continue to improve just naturally. So what it means is the teams outside the 8, like Adelaide and St Kilda and Port Adelaide, they have to...
Well, Carlton as well.
Yeah, Carlton, who just...
good sides.
Yeah, and I think Carlton are going to be good this year and should push up into the 8. So it really is challenging, but it means it's such an even competition, and it means that things like injury and things like momentum, when you get on a bit of a roll and you're playing good footy, can you win 1, 2, 3, 4 games in a row and cash in when your team is fit and firing? So all those things are going to be really important for teams, you know, particularly at the start of the year. And Adelaide and Port Adelaide will benefit from the gather round. They'll get an extra home game, which, you know, could be really important to them, as well as Taylor Walker gets a gilt-edged chance there. Really good kick. I think it was from Darcy Fogarty. He got it back into that sort of top of the second square, they call it, where too far out for the defenders to punch it through for a behind. Forces them to get a little bit nervous, and Taylor Walker always had the drop on that kick. Defenders for the yellow team weren't able to get a hand on it. And talk about Darcy Fogarty putting it, almost penciling it in. I've got my texter out for this one. Taylor Walker won't miss from 20 metres out directly in front.
No, buy you a Coke if he does.
Oh, geez, he did a bit of work, the goal umpire.
So he gets another one. He's looked pretty good, Big Texan. I guess the question there, Bix, is how much longer can he go for? He's a superstar, isn't he?
Well, he is, and
Does he have to play every game this year? If he's fit enough, you don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. If you track Taylor's performance over the last couple of years, I reckon he starts the season really strong, and then because he plays such a demanding role and he also covers so much territory, I think come to round 10, 11, 12, there's often a little bit of, he just starts to tail off a bit. And I think in previous years he's had a bit of a break. Sometimes he has a week or two off, just resets, recharges, and then sort of goes again and gets back into some really good form. So, you know, whether they can manage that a bit better, whether they can manage it better now because they've got a few more options to play in the forward line, and he mightn't have to perhaps have the body of work that he normally does in terms of reliance. That's going to be interesting to watch. And it's also the confidence of the coach and the other forwards. You know that Geelong manage their players pretty well, and they were able to do that with an ageing list and go on and win the flag. It might be something that Matthew Nicks might entertain.
So there's Ben Keys onto the chest of McAdam. The Ben Keys one's interesting too. Bix, he played a defensive role on Adam Sard in last year's win over Carlton, which was probably, at that game live, one of the best performances I've seen from the Crows. They were fast, they put the Blues under pressure, and they capitalised. He kicked a couple of goals in that game too. He's looking like he'll be squeezed a little bit more forward than usual. Yeah,
look, starting in that high half forward role as McAdam there kicks it beautifully. And he's an interesting player, isn't he, McAdam? He's
wonderful, isn't he? Fantastic to watch.
He's a human highlight, really. He's, 2 or 3 nominations a year you can put him down for goal of the day or goal of the year and mark of the year. He's not overly tall. He's just around the 6 foot mark, if that. But he can compete really strongly in the air. He's dynamic off the lead, so he creates separation with his speed. And that one there reads the ball really well off the boot. I'm not sure that Ben Keys was looking for him. Might have come off the instep a little bit, but he picked up the flight of the ball first and got to the drop of it and marked it on the chest. So getting back to Ben Keys and where he's going to play, I think we talked about some of those different attributes they're looking for through the midfield. And if you bring, Pedler and Rochelle and Rankin through there, someone has to drop out. And I think what they're looking for, Keys is just he's got such an appetite to work with his athleticism, where he gets up the ground, gets deep into the fence, then can run back. I think they're looking to really cash in on that. And if you think about last year, sometimes that was the role that James Rowe was playing. He probably isn't as much of an aerobic beast as what someone like a Keys is. So they're looking for Keys to help out in defence, get that extra number. But when Adelaide win possession, just take off. And can he burn his man off back? You've got Billy Dowling playing his first game. There's Ball Ace amongst others. So you probably expected that so far, but still, there was still some good delivery inside the forward line. There was some they would have liked to have done better, but just blown out. A few cobwebs as well, this first little hit up.
So Rochelle starts in the middle with Berry and Laird. Took on a little bit Berry, but he's constantly on the improve, one of the key cogs. Well done from Scholl. I liked him. Scholl can use both feet really well, but was sort of squeezed out towards the back end, or even a little bit last year. Felt tough to get in the side, didn't he?
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's got some really good AFL attributes in terms of he's an endurance animal. He's one of the fittest at Adelaide, so he covers the ground up and back, and that's what is demanded from that wing position now. I think Ed Langdon, who's really set the standard there, so you'd think that works well for him, and he can kick the ball and deliver it really well, but I guess the wing is one of the spots at Adelaide. They've got a few players who can get through there, and they like to sort of rotate their half-backs through the wing as well. So maybe that's one of the things that he has to add to, the ability to go to half-back and defend really well as be that attacking player on the wing.
Rory Sloane started on the wing that first centre bounce to start the term. That'll be a position where he'll float through a bit more as well as forward too.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little bit of the Mr. Fix-It. We've heard that he played a little bit across half-back in some of the match sim. We'll see him. We talked about the role that Ben Keys played. I think that's another role that Roy Sloane could play as well. So we're talking half-forward, wing, half-back. The midfield stuff, I think they'll prefer to keep giving opportunities to some of their younger players and trying to invest in those guys. And that's a little bit of selflessness from Rory to be prepared to play perhaps, a bit of a lesser role, but an important role for the team.
Yeah, it's remarkable when you have someone of his standing willing to step out and allow the next generation to come through. Is the game about speed now, Bix? Is that where it's going?
Yeah, it's about speed, but it's also about when you have the ball in your hand, that's a form of defence. When a big collision there.
Chase Jones and Mitch Hinge.
Yeah, both of them bounced up, which is good to see. But, maintaining possession and not just maintaining possession, but doing it in a way that puts the opposition under pressure, so being able to attack at the same time. So they're the important things. So you don't have to be a super quick team, but what you can do, if you use the ball and move the ball quickly, then that puts the opposition under pressure.
It certainly is a bit of heat in this one too. I mean, it may be a February internal trial, but I mean, you never want to rock up to training on Monday knowing that your mates has got one over you, do you?
Yeah. It's interesting as well, just looking ahead of the ball for Adelaide. So even numbers ahead of the footy. So what that means is they haven't sent up their half forward and allowed the opposition to drop back. And often the reason the half forward goes up is because you want to bolster your midfield. So if you back your midfield in, you can keep your forwards in position ahead of the ball. That makes it difficult for the opposition defence. So that's just a slight change. You didn't see that a whole lot last year.
So you move your half forward up to give you another number around the ball.
Yeah, half forward up.
In anticipation, your defender comes with you or stays back.
Well, generally what happens, the defenders drop off as we get some nice delivery there. Yeah. So what you're trying to do, you've heard the term take ground or taking territory. So if you send an extra player up to the footy and around the stoppage, you win that and you kick it inside your forward line. Now, what you're doing is you're competing with 5 forwards against 6 defenders, and all you're trying to do is make sure that you're not outmarked. And if you can bring the ball to ground and then perhaps hold it in, then you can set your defence up behind that and you put the opposition under pressure. But often against teams that have those great drop-off players, you get the quick kick in, they get an intercept mark and they take it straight out. So, you know, like when you think about some of the good teams like Geelong with Tom Stewart, you know, what teams do, they try and win the territory game by winning it around stoppage and kicking it in, but it plays right into the hands of Geelong because Tom Stewart gets free and then they use that sort of slingshot attack coming out. So, you know, to be able to back your own midfield in to win their share and then to play 6 forwards ahead of the ball, it takes away that spare player for the opposition.
Walker kicks his 3rd today. He's been pretty good. Fogarty's been exciting up forward too. He's had a few good moments, set up a goal, has taken a few good marks, and Rochelle's gone from midfield to forward too. Bix, who's caught your eye? I mean, we're only sort of 5 minutes into this second term, but give us a couple of players who you've been impressed with early on.
Look, I think more so than individual players, what we've seen is we've seen space in the forward line and players lead up into it. So I reckon Taylor Walker's taken 2 really easy marks on the lead. We saw Isaac Rankin kick a goal from an easy mark on the lead. So that speaks a little bit about the way that the forwards are working for each other. They're leading and creating space, and also it talks through the delivery as a 50-metre penalty.
Rochelle from Nankervis. I think Schonberg a couple of times too has burst away from that centre stoppage, and you know, he's hit a chest, which is just the next evolution for him, really, isn't it?
Well, it's the next evolution for probably 2 or 3 of Adelaide's midfielders, and so far we've seen it. That last pass inside 50 from Hamill was very good. And I'll give Schonberg some credit as well. Been out and watched training a little bit this year, and he's in the lead group in the running. He's really challenging that as one of the fittest players at the club, and that's a credit to him, because I think when he started from his first draft, he didn't look like the most athletic type, and he's now really got an athletic, hard body, and you know he's embraced the Darren Burgess mantra and trained really hard, and you give yourself every chance of playing good footy when you're really, really fit, and he certainly looks that. He'd be a bit disappointed with that. Josh Rochelle missed the set shot. That's one of the things we've come to expect, that he's a really good finisher, so that'd be disappointing for him.
Another debut to remember, wasn't it, at Adelaide Oval? How do you see back on the sort of wing component as Pedler looks inboard again and finds Rochelle a much easier shot this time? Hinge, Dawson, Miller, Sloan, a couple of players. 4 doesn't really go into 2, but some great depth to choose from in that position. Who would you go for?
Yeah, look, I think
Saligo, didn't mention him as well.
Yeah, I think what we'll see is a combination of all those players. So, all those players can play at half back and wing, and I think that's discussing with Matthew Nicks at different stages, he wants the flexibility for his players to be able to play in a number of different positions, and he's missed another one there, Josh Rochelle, so he'd be a little bit disappointed with that, but just another opportunity again where Pedler, what he brings is a bit more certainty by foot, just gets the handball. Sloan did the really good work, got the turnover, and then Pedler was able to a really accurate pinpoint pass, and unfortunately Adelaide just haven't quite, this is the blue team, haven't quite cashed in on the last couple of opportunities.
McHenry's been good for the yellow side. Schonberg as well, just a bit of defensive effort from him, and going back, Rory Sloan, the former skipper. There goes Schonberg. So the blue team, the probables, is there anyone else you'd like to see, Bix, do you think, or this is almost your round 1 side, isn't it? Barring a couple of players that aren't in the lineup today, of course. Well, Paul Seesman out for the year, and Andrew McPherson.
It's only 2 others, isn't there?
Braden Cook with a little bit of a calf niggle. Josh Worrell as well, not featuring. He played a bit towards the back end of last year. Yeah,
a bit disappointing for Braden Cook. Look, I've been a real fan of what he's capable of doing. Another one as well, I think, who will benefit once he continues to get that AFL body, and hopefully that's what Darren Burgess is really good at. But he just tends to have time when he has the ball in his hand. So bit of poise and class. So there's good size as well. Can play up on the wing and half forward. So disappointing we're not seeing him today. We're hoping that he's had a good pre-season. But look, good pressure there. Looks like Fogarty with the fluorescent boots come from nowhere, and that's not a comfortable position to be in.
There's a couple there, isn't there?
When you get hit from the blind side, but
Fogarty got the bright red, Laird as well.
Yeah,
bright
so
orange.
So I think the starting crew here, are right in the box seat, I guess, to be able to be that.
Have a look at this young man wearing the number 9. Hand off to Ben Keys, who strolls in for an open one, and just a little burst of speed from Rory Sloane.
Yeah. Well, look, that's, I think, what people forget about what he can do. He hunts the footy. It's a tackle, the ball spills free, he gets the ball, he brushes off a tackle, and then he's a really smart handball, drew the player in, then released Keys, and Keys took a couple of steps and kicked the goal. And I think what we've known about Ben Keys, we're talking about him playing at half forward. What he does create is he does create shots on goal, and we've seen that a number of times. And so if he plays a bit more in the front half, he could be a player who might get a few opportunities to hit the scoreboard now, and then the challenge is to finish like he did there, which has been really good. And Adelaide, of course, looking pretty dominant here. 7-5, the blue team, the Probables, versus 1-1 for the yellow team, who are a little bit sort of undermanned compared to the other side.
Yeah, fair to say. And if you're a fan watching on, and we thank you for tuning in, listening to the thoughts of Mark Bickley, to see Rory Sloane coming off, the 12-month injury, the knee reconstruction against Richmond back in round 5. It's been 307 days since he's got onto the field. To see him with a little turn of speed and burst and set up a goal, it brings a smile to your face, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, and it gives him confidence as well, and just reminds you of what he's capable of. Just saw Isaac Rankin in the middle of the ground, the ball just sort of got a little tap, bounce free, and he was just onto it really quickly, and I think it might have been Chase Jones, might have just got a little fingertip on it to stop it from hitting the chest of an Adelaide forward. So just a couple of little glimpses of what we can expect out of the middle if Rankin is to play through there.
And that's a huge test for Chase Jones. I mean, he'll play on some of the best forwards if he cracks into the AFL side, and how great would it be to test yourself against one of the best, one of the most exciting too. Good mark taken on the outer side by Shane McAdam. And here is that man, Miller. Yeah. Missed him so much. He's burst off half-back. And great to see him. He's just a great character around the club too, Bix. He's awesome when he's up and going, and great to have him back with a smile on his face too.
Yeah, for sure. Just Jordan Butts there just looked a bit rushed on the kick, and probably we're used to seeing it the other way. Butts marking, handballing to Miller and delivering. You don't see it the other way. But I guess that's probably part of the brief that Jordan Butts would have got in terms of the review from last season. I don't think he was as impressive last year as he was the year before. But the brief would have been about, what we now know, you can stop opposition players. But the next thing for you now is to be able to start to attack. You think of Stephen May at Melbourne, and he's a brilliant stopper, but he also runs off, he attacks, gets down the ground. And I think that's what, every player now in terms of where do I get better, and that would have been, I'm sure, what the coaching staff are telling Jordan Butts. Keep with the defensive work, but you now have to start to add other elements to your game, which is being able to join in attack.
It's a rare shot on goal for the yellow team. Lockie Scholl.
A little tidbit for you on the team sheet we've been given. Edward McHenry. Maybe he's done away with Ned and he's gone with Edward. Not many Edwards.
I'm not sure it suits him, to be honest.
Edward
he's
McHenry.
The Ned.
He's more the Ned variety. I agree with
Ned
that.
the Needler. McAdam decides to sit down, and Strawn, good grab.
Oh.
O'Brien gets down and dirty. Good crowd in now, Bix. It's, I reckon, easily 1,000.
I reckon there's a few more than that.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't there be? You want to get a chance to have a look at your team,
well, this
see
is
how they're going to go.
Before they go to Perth, and they play Fremantle at the Dockers' home ground down at Coburn, about a half-hour drive south, and then West Coast Eagles the week after. Really find out a little bit about yourselves in those two games, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just while we're chatting, Tariq Newchurch just had a little fumble, which is would have been disappointing for him. As we see, a nice mark there. Oh, they didn't pay it.
I think Murray got a little bit of a fingertip on it. McAdam a long way from home, and I've yet to see Jordan Dawson panic under pressure.
Yeah, Taylor Walker. Just wonder whether he might have just pushed up on the wing. He's a fair way down the ground, and that's not one of his best efforts there.
Usually excellent with both feet.
Yeah, Tom Duday wrapped it up for him, which was nice of him. And now Adelaide see if they can use it on the way back.
And now this is the key, I suppose. Now Schomburg's been busy, and Key's pushing that through that half forward. He's got Miller outside. Is the next kick is the crucial one, really.
Yeah, one of the things that they have to use a bit of poise here is because Walker and McAdam and all those players are ahead of the footy, it means you're outnumbered behind the ball. So just need someone just to take a deep breath, and they're doing that really well, just maintaining possession, finding the spare player. Now they're in a dangerous spot now where they're 70 out from goal.
And there's Rankin strolling into probably the easiest goal he'll kick in his career. And a warm round of applause.
I think the round of applause has probably a lot to do with the big man in Riley Thilthorpe. He's up against 3 yellow players there. He's able to sort of burst through, get 2 hands on it, bring it to the front. And if I was Isaac Rankin, he'd be the first bloke I'd be going up to, Thilthorpe, and saying, well done, because bring it down to the front, and that's where the small guys want you to bring it. It's easy pickings for him. So well done, Rankin, for being in good position, but well done by Thilthorpe for making that contest and creating a crumb.
And that's great from the big man. Take a bit more responsibility. Fogarty playing as the deepest forward on ball ace. Walker getting up the ground. Looking at that starting 6, Saligo, Pedler, and Rankin the smalls. Rochelle and Berry.
Yeah, interesting there as well. Look, Keys went into the centre square and Rochelle came off the bench and just gave him the slip out to the wing, please, Ben. Pulled a bit of rank. Josh?
Ready to inherit the town, do you think?
Well, Laird, nice work. Gets the ball on the move.
Does that so well. Rankin stays down, and a good mark from Paddy Parnell this time. Usually very good by foot. Young Michaelani.
Yeah, Max Michaelani already comparisons to Ben Hart. Ben Hart, one of the greatest players ever to pull on an Adelaide Crows Guernsey.
Tell us about, what are the comparisons?
Look, they just poise, rarely make mistakes. You know, the ability to play tall and small. The thing with Ben Hart, as he was sort of developing, it seemed like no matter what challenge was thrown at him, he was able to accept that challenge and just lift to the occasion. And that's what the people are saying about Michaelani, whether it's coming from underage footy to senior SAMFL footy, just being able to make that adjustment and make that step. And then within pretty much 12 months going from SAMFL footy to get onto an AFL training list and now sort of competing against AFL players, once again, looks comfortable at the level and doesn't look flustered. So the ability to step up as the game steps up, I think that's, you know, a really important character trait to have, and he looks nonplussed today. And we heard Taylor Walker say he's not out of contention for round 1, which is
wow.
When you think that he was unfortunately dropped for the grand final of the Norwood team that won the premiership, so he wasn't in their best 22, and within 3 or 4 months he's come to an AFL club and is now sort of pressing for selection with Adelaide. So do I think he'll be in round 1? No, I don't, but still high praise from Taylor Walker.
Absolutely, he's a good young fella too. As Rankin's going to burst into another one. No one near him, just has to sit. And he runs away from Mark Keane, who rather cleverly gives up the chase. 8.5 minutes left in this one.
Yeah, look, it's always a bittersweet feeling when you play an internal trial, because as impressive as the blue team is, what it says is there's a big gap between the blues and the yellows, and I think the yellow team there defensively would be really disappointed. You know, Isaac Rankin, 20 metres goal side of the nearest defender. That's some sort of breakdown in communication. The ball got over the back and just too easy. So as impressive as the blue team have been, we've just got to keep some sort of context as well. They're playing against an inferior young defensive side. So I think what we'll see is, I'm really keen to see, as sort of, you know, the coaching staff are getting a good look at their main side, they'll start to make some changes, and I'd be really surprised if in the next, you know, quarter that we don't see some of the blues and yellow guys change Guernseys, and be interesting to see what it looks like when you get some of the number 1 forwards against some of the number 1 defenders.
Great to see him back too. Here he is again, junior from Henley High. Had a good time away from Adelaide, but now great to see him back. Pedler's been exciting. Up forward, Fogarty in another one-on-one. Himmelberg at fullback is not a sight you see too often, Bix.
No, it's something that I'm actually keen to have a look at, because when you think about Adelaide, that's not a great kick from Himmelberg. As Parnell tries to wrap it up. Keen to have a look at it, because if you think about Elliott and where he's going to play this year, you know, he's probably behind Walker and Thilthorpe along with Fogarty. So you know, in terms of tall defenders, you know, you've got Jordan Butts who's going to play on those really big forwards, but a lot of clubs now at AFL level have got 2 big forwards. So if something were to happen to Jordan Butts, and we know he's had a little bit of an irritation with the shoulder, you need to have a backup, you know, someone who's close to 200 centimetres who can play in defence. So that's the opportunity that Elliott's getting to have a look at. Is he capable of doing that?
Well, it's gone about 6 metres, and Luke Pedler wasn't quite switched onto that one. Nankervis laid the tackle, and Mark Keane lays a bit of body on Fogarty, a couple of big fellas. Do you think he'll feature at any point, Bix, or is he a bit more depth and insurance? Yeah,
look, it's more speculative than anything, isn't it, really? Keane,
good grab, Strawn.
Yeah, of course, he plays in a similar position to Mackesy, who is no longer at Adelaide, so they bolster that. But the reality is he's the 45th player picked on your list. Yeah, and so he's probably got to improve a fair bit, but remembering that he's got some upside because of his physical attributes, and he has had a taste, and he's shown that he is capable at the level, you know. So if he continues to improve, maybe not so much whether it's this year, sloppy handball there from Schomburg, but, you know, he could really improve, and with his size and his ability to intercept mark and his speed, he's got some attributes that Adelaide are a little bit short of.
The turnover in the middle of the ground, just a little untidy, but Dawson mopping up. A bit more room from the far more experienced blue team.
Yeah, someone's given the umpire.
I think there's a bit of a change. I think what we're seeing now, there will be a pause here. There's a little bit of a tweak to the situation, and we said that's what's going to happen today.
Yeah, so the scoreboard's changed a little bit, and so this is one of the things that the Adelaide Footy Club mentioned might happen is you look at the scoreboard now, and the blue team are now behind by a couple of goals. So what that would probably suggest, they're trying to replicate what it's like to be, you know, maybe 2 goals down with 3 or 4 minutes to play. So I'm guessing you're going to see speed on sort of game.
Now the yellow team is up by 9. So I said it's match sim, giving the boys the best chance to understand a bit of change in tempo in the game. So yeah, bit of on the fly.
So the yellow team now ahead by 9 points. There's 5 minutes on the clock. Riley Thilthorpe is going to start in the ruck, and you can hear a bit of a buzz around the ground. They're curious to see how this is going to unfold, Bix.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think now what we're going to see from the Blue is a bit of Formula One footy. They've literally got to kick 2 goals in under 5 minutes, so expect them to try and take the game on a bit now, and that generally goes 2 ways. You know, to attack a lot, you have to take risks, and you have to leave your man, like we're seeing Jordan Dawson do, and so it can work for you, and you can go ahead and score. Well, it's Brodie Smith. But it also means your defence can be compromised as well. So we'll be interested to see how this unfolds.
So Keane takes the grab. We saw Brodie try and go long and direct and take some territories we've seen him do.
And, of course, for the yellow team, they're practising maintaining possession. They don't want to take risks. They're trying to maintain possession. Can they get a stop play here, slow the game down? So this is the scenarios that teams practice for. So McHenry here probably looking to get a mark inside forward 50 to get 30 seconds, take it off the clock. There's some of the things that the yellow team are looking to do.
And you could hear McHenry there. Not sure if it came through the mic, but you can hear him yell, hold it in, hold it in. So for the yellow team, if they can't get a grab or they can't find a shirt, you'd imagine long down the line and try and get as many bodies on top of the pill as possible, where the blue team need to just flick it out into some space and then get out and run, use their numbers. McHenry a little bit energetic.
So expect this expect this to be coming back through the middle or a switch of play. The last thing they want to do is go down the line here. I would think if I was the blue team, they've got to try and do something that's a little bit more attacking, and that's probably not it. I wouldn't have thought. You heard some groans from the players there. It was an execution error. It's probably a decision-making error as well. Like if you're behind by 2 goals, kicking the ball down the line where all the density is probably not the move. You want to get it onto the open side of the ground. You want players running and breaking into space. So there's a learning opportunity, I would suspect, come Monday for Sam Berry, who is still a baby in the game.
Yellow team have done relatively well so far maintaining possession, Bix, haven't they? Here's Zach Taylor. And now the skipper
leaving his man. He's got the brief that both him and Smith looking to get it on the other side of the ground. It's a good defence by the yellow team. You can see every time Blue get it, they want to get it on the open side of the ground.
Now
they're away. Yeah, you can look at
So I've seen him practice this a lot at training. Bix, we spend a lot of time at West Lakes watching on throughout the summer, and Jordan Dawson has been just a linchpin at halfback, trying to steer the side around the zone. We see the yellow team protecting the corridor, but I suppose as you touched on there, Bix, when you're trying to go fast, the skill errors, if it's run and gun, isn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing as well is the yellow team know exactly what the blue team are trying to do. So they're doing a really good job of covering the open side of the ground, defending that really well with their positioning. And now they're doing this really well. We saw there was 5 minutes on the clock. They've been able to protect what are we talking, a 10-point lead or a 9-point lead. So they've maintained possession, couple of short kicks. That's a long kick to the pocket. They would have loved that to have been punched out of bounds, but Riley O'Brien's done well. So let's see if they can attack now. Not a great kick.
So go through Dawson and Smith again.
Yeah, that's their kick from Smith. That's a really
unbelievable
courageous kick, and it's awesome now for Adelaide. Hinge wants to go, come back through the corridor. They're taking the game on. And so this is what you get. So you're taking the game on. It's high reward, but it can also be high risk because sometimes it doesn't come off. So
well read by O'Brien.
Yeah, but when the yellow team looked up, they had plenty of open options because the blue team are really aggressive positioning. They're playing 5 or 10 metres in front of their man. So once again, has it worked perfectly for the blue team? No, but what Matthew Nix gets is some great vision and great coaching opportunities come Monday when they review this game and where they can improve.
What do you think he sees out of this?
Oh, there's lots of things. I think we just saw Pedler, we just saw Berry, we just saw a couple of other young players, the inability to execute, so the game's in the balance, and I think he'll be talking about what we need to do here, guys. When the game's in the balance, we've got to be able to make sure that we can put the ball on the body, and we just saw a really nice piece of work from Saligo. Oh, great chase there.
Great tackle from Chase Jones.
Yeah, it was, but Walker contest against two, Saligo, really good positioning, one take, then kicks the ball out in front of McAdam. They're the type of things you're looking for from your young players, the ability to execute when the game is in the balance. And that's why everyone loves Jake Saligo. He just looks like he's got the footy chip. He gets the game and understands it.
You know, he went to a footy school.
Yeah.
He studied under Darren Buick.
He gives me nightmares still. Don't mention his name, please. What a great player he was. I'll tell you what, played on him a few times. Very rarely did I come off first best.
Well, that's amazing, really. We had a chat with him. Great grab from Dawson a couple of weeks ago, and spots up Schomburg, who's been pretty good in this first half. And, Saligo was saying that part of his education was at school understanding where to run and where to go, when to kick here, where to move. It's not something you hear too often.
Well, that's it. You talk to Henley High is a very similar program, and you talk about Isaac Rankin, Jack Lukosius. There's plenty of names who have gone through that similar program where they teach football. And that's a fantastic kick by Harry Schomburg. I think that's been a little bit of a knock on Harry as a player. He hasn't been consistent with his foot skills. Gets the ball. I love his movement around stoppage. He's one of these guys who gets the ball on the move and can burst out of stoppage, but just found himself back in the sandful a couple of times last year after not being able to maximise those opportunities where you win the ball, you burst out of stoppage, you've got a player free, and then you aren't able to finish that work. But we've seen a couple of nice bits of play by Harry, and when you do a beautiful kick like that, it gives you great confidence. So the blue team, they edge closer. So now within a couple of points. Let's have a look at the centre bounce stoppage. Will they be really aggressive here? Will they try and hit forward? Will Schomburg, who's playing in that sort of sweeper role, will he try and get on the end of it? Looks like we're going to make another adjustment here. It's from the bench.
Umpire's just waiting for the 6 players to get into position.
There was
Lockie Gallant.
might have had an extra player on, did they? Or
So where would you like to see O'Brien go here, Bix? And who does he go to? Does Keys get on the burst?
it looks like there's a big gap. It didn't win the tap, but they tried to isolate a big gap probably around sort of 9 or 10 o'clock, and it looked like either Keys or Schomburg was going to run into it. Didn't quite win the tap, but anyway, they got their hands on it and they're away.
Here is that man, Saligo.
He'd be disappointed with that because in
Yes.
the end he did the work to get in the front. The kick was pretty good from Hamill and just wasn't able to control it. It's an area I know that Adelaide are pretty keen to work on, and the connection between their ruckman, O'Brien, who gets a lot of taps, and the midfielders. They've got to work really hard to make sure they're maximising those, and it's at times hasn't been a great strength.
So yellow team have come storming back, hit the front. 4 points. So you don't see a lot of the score. You might not see the scoreboard on the stream, and not a lot of it's made this afternoon, Bix, of course, because as we've touched on, there will be a couple of different changes, but it's more the way that the blue team's playing as Mark Keane floats in front to take a pretty good grab. So still looking for a bit of tempo from the blue team. McHenry with a bit of footy smart slows things down for the yellow team.
Yeah, that's it. So Butts, that last kick again, got the mark, went back, kicked it down the line. He had a couple of players.
We've got Rochelle on Haley and Tyler Brown's watching Rory Laird as Strawn and Himmelberg kick things off in this third lot of 25 minutes. The score, 4 points. The margin is the advantage to the blue team, to the yellow team, which has been manufactured after the blue team completely dominated the first half. So Rochelle was lively in that first term with the ball now. And Walker kicked a couple of goals. He was impressive too, Bix.
Yeah, look, Tex got on the end of a couple and enjoyed a bit of space. He's won the ball there, giving it out to Matt Crouch on the right foot. And I guess part of the brief with Matt Crouch was, we know you can win the ball, Matt, but can you be dangerous? And I reckon he'd be pretty happy with that. Hasn't been a noted goal kicker. He was involved in little chain earlier in the play where he gave the handball to Rory Laird to get it moving forward. And then he's got on the end of that one there. So I guess that's what he's looking to improve upon this year. Can he use the ball better? Can he play more direct? Can he hurt the opposition? And no better way to hurt the opposition than kick a goal. So I guess what we're looking for in the centre square, Elliot Himmelberg in the ruck. I think everyone knows that Riley O'Brien gets his hand to a lot of balls, but how effective is that? Elliot Himmelberg probably not as effective as getting his hand to the ball, but probably more effective around the ground once the play sort of gets into open play. We saw Elliot, well, he won the tap, then got after it again and got the ball out. So that's exactly what Matthew Nicks will be looking for. So just maybe looking for a little bit more sort of dynamic ruckman in the middle who can then get involved again around the ground.
So as Schonberg breaks through and tackled by Isaac Rankin defensively this time, and away goes Himmelberg, bursting forward. So, Bix, do you think Crouch has been a little too apprehensive? Why do you feel like he hasn't been as dangerous as Adelaide wants him to be?
Oh, look, I think it's just been something that's maybe crept into his game. He's just got onto that lovely left foot pass there by Walker, just at the toes of Himmelberg. Thilthorpe couldn't quite wrap it up. I think just got into some bad habits where his first thought just became handball all the time. And I think we'd love to see him get his legs moving, engage them. So when you take the ball, you take off first of all. And sometimes that puts you out into space. Sometimes it draws a crowd and you can, once two players come at you, you can lay it off then to a free player. He just got a bit stationary around the contest, it looked like, and grabbed the ball. And the first thing you wanted to do was handball to someone who's a metre away, and often that player was under pressure as well. So he's an All-Australian midfielder. Now that is really hard to do because it means you've got to be in the top 4 or 5 midfielders in the competition. So he's been there, he's done it, and I think at some stage he'll get another opportunity, and hopefully for Adelaide he's able to take that and become that sort of more dynamic that Matthew Nicks is looking for.
Best and fairest in a near premiership year, wasn't he? So his best is clearly very good, but just trying to find the next step in his career. Scholl, Strawn combined.
Interesting there. Just looked like it was going to be out of bounds on the full over the fence, but it swung back and nearly came back into play.
Use that in India.
Yeah, Jordan Dawson there. Nice by foot.
To Laird. Crouch does get forward, but streaming through Brodie Smith and Chase Jones. One of those changes that you mentioned, Bix at half-time, swapped over into the blue team and showed a cool head to find Taylor Walker again, who's looking for Pedler, and some lax marking finds him in a similar spot, but for a young man trying to get his way into this side, that's good awareness from the former skipper.
Yeah, it is. And look, I reckon if that was round one, I reckon Taylor Walker goes back and kicks that. He's a beautiful kick from about 45, kicks through the ball. you mentioned Pedler's kicking from a similar position. He's a nice kick as well, but I still think I'd rather it in Taylor Walker's hands, but just trying to bring the young man into the game. Didn't let him down.
Kick's good. Yeah. And the crowd gets around him. I reckon that's easily, what are we talking, 2,500, 3,000 here, Bix?
Yeah, good crowd, beautiful
Great
conditions.
turnout.
Yeah, not much breeze to speak of, but what we saw there was, I think, a little bit more willingness to try and attack. So the kick by Dawson gets it to Laird. They're in the front half of the ground. Brodie Smith comes off his halfback flank, gets the ball at speed. Now, he doesn't actually execute the kick inside the forward 50, but because he receives the ball at speed, the opposition now have to really come off their man. And when they come off their man, it creates the overlap. It goes to Chase Jones. Chase Jones, with just a little bit of time, is then able to pinpoint Taylor Walker in a bit of space. So, you know, sometimes last year we saw Adelaide be a little bit stagnant, but clearly it's an instruction that we've got to get the ball moving quicker, got to get it inside our forward 50 moving quicker. So you've got some weapons now across halfback. Jones on a wing, you've got Smith, you've got Dawson, all those players really good by foot and really good at delivering inside 50.
3 games for Pedler last year. There goes Schonberg coming up against Berry in that contest.
Second time in a row, Schonberg gets the ball on the move, and that's what he brings to Adelaide's midfield. I love that about him. Unfortunately, just not quite getting that ball where he wanted to get it. A little bit sort of right side conscious, not really great on the left foot. The other time, the one before, he got caught holding the ball, but I think that's something that he just has to continue to work on, keep trying to get that ball on the move. And as he gets more experience, he'll work out the times when he's got some time and space to be able to deliver that better.
Boundary umpire not entirely happy with the pill, but takes a good grab on the outer side. Maybe he could audition for a game.
Not sure what happened there. He was wiping the ball on the ground. Did it land in a puddle or something? I'm not sure.
So now we're back underway, and O'Brien, who's made that change up against Thilthorpe. The yellow team, predominantly the second team. New Church, he's always super exciting and someone that we get a little feedback on Twitter now and then, Bix, and people want to ask, where's Tariq Newchurch? And I think when you look at Adelaide's forward line, it's absolutely stacked now with some exceptional small forwards.
Yeah, look, and I think people enjoy or want him to get the opportunity because he's got that attribute which Adelaide lack a little bit of, and that's electrifying speed. We saw him at Sandford level, 3 and 4 bounces and really light the place up, and everyone's just hoping that he's able to sort of bring that ability to the AFL level. Haven't quite seen the consistency of performance to be able to warrant that selection just yet. Let's hope he finds that this year.
So a nice passage, Fogarty getting involved. Dawson, a rare right foot ball ace in a pretty good position, but attracts a bit of company now. On the ground is Michelini from the looks of things.
Yeah, good performance.
Jim just sitting right in front of us there, Bix.
Yeah, what a great player he was.
Hall of Famer for Norwood.
Multiple premiership player, but Walker there got back, was able to just get that ball to ground and create that stoppage. And from stoppage, when you've got a couple of live wires like Rankin, that's all you need to do. And half a chance there from Rankin. Gets movement again through stoppage, and that's starting to become a bit of a theme. Some of those guys getting right on the move. That's for goal number 4, is it, for Isaac Rankin?
He's kicked a couple from the goal line, hasn't he? But that one, the stoppage inside forward 50 deep, and he's been exceptional for fans to see him play like this too, and like to see him when the whips are cracking. And
this is the conundrum that Adelaide will find. Everyone's saying, let's get Rankin up and around the footy. But when you do that, there's sometimes a payoff, and the payoff is if he's up around the footy, he's not within 30 metres of goal. And if a player can impact the scoreboard like he's done today, why wouldn't you keep him there for the whole match? Would you bother like little burst in the midfield as such? Yeah, I think you do. But you know, on a day like today, if he's got some dominance, and there's a reason why you keep him around goal, because he can kick 5 or 6, and that's a match-winning performance. If he goes up around the footy and has 25 possessions and plays pretty well, but doesn't kick any goals, you say, are we getting the best out of that? Because there's plenty of guys that can play midfield and get 25 possessions, but there's not many players that can go forward as an opportunist and kick 4 or 5 goals. So you're always sort of weighing that decision up. Riley Thilthorpe there just missed his teammate by foot.
But that's what you want from him, though, isn't it? He's run away from O'Brien. He gets in a bit of space, and that's where you'd like to see him use his skills and athleticism. Just a blemish on that occasion, but he's getting in good positions, getting his hand on the ball, and Rory Sloane drops back into the hole in front of Lockie Gallant to take a mark on the outer side. He's done a couple of nice things, and he'll be pleased with this, won't he? Nice kick through Brody Smith and Dawson combining, and bursting off half-back is Jordan Butts. So I think for Rory Sloane to get through unscathed, blow out a few of the cobwebs and have a couple of nice moments for the former skipper, I think he'd be pleased.
The other thing we saw with Sloane is that ball's going to, just got to touch on it. We've seen a couple of times Adelaide take the ball at, an intercept mark at half-back and then kick it down the line. Sloane took that intercept mark. He was never kicking that back down the line. His head was swiveled straight into the middle of the ground. He waited and waited until there was an option on. They swung the ball through to the middle. Dawson got on the end of it, got it to Butts. So all of a sudden they're attacking from the fat side of the ground, and it's a much better entry. So it's experience like that and players that have got the confidence to be able to pull the trigger on that kick through the middle that Adelaide need. So same thing here. Yellow team really need to get the ball to the open side of the ground. They've got an outnumber on this side, Ned McHenry. But unfortunately, just didn't have the confidence to pull the trigger there. Kicked it straight down the line. And now they're going to turn it over. Here's Newchurch. This is what people want to see. They want to see that run and carry. Nice release there.
Keys coming hard to Schonberg and running into an open goal. Jay Boyle, we've seen him do that in the Sandful throughout the year. Last year had a pretty good season. And now a chance for Worrell. Now, what would the blue team want to do here, Bix? How would you like to set things up in terms of your transition going from defensive 50, which, I mean, you see a lot of goals tend to be scored from the back half.
Yeah, that looked like just trying to get it into the hands of someone like a Smith. If the opposition are going to give you Smith a 20-metre pass, he can grab it, run 5 or 10 and then kick it, without... They haven't shown any risk at all there, really, and they've got it to the wing. So, that's probably...
Pretty easy.
Yeah, that's a sort of low-risk play. What they're going to try and do is probably manufacture some more attacking plays perhaps later on, but I think that's what most teams are trying to do, get it in the hands of the good kickers, and if they can get it, at least into your own half of the footy, that's probably success from a kick-out, I reckon.
Now, the Crows scored a lot of goals last year from stoppage, and you see the transition side of the game, predominantly some of the better teams, they just tear you to pieces in transition. Do you think Rankin, do you think Dawson, just a rejig as Laird gets forward and his ball inside forward 50 finds Fogarty? Do you think that's an area of growth for the Crows?
Oh, for sure. As you get better ball users in your back half, we talked about Miller, and you got Miller at Smith, Dawson. You got good decision makers. If Sloane plays high half forward or wing, he's we know makes good decisions. So you'd expect that more balls end up on the body, and then you saw we've seen a lot of marks on the lead from Adelaide, which is good because if you get some good delivery, you got blokes like Walker and Fogarty who know how to lead and time their lead, and generally Fogarty from a set shot within 50 is a really high. He's a high percentage play for you. He's missed a couple today, so he'd be a little bit disappointed. But when you've got give the opposition or you give any team time and space and you've got good players leading, generally it's going to end up on someone's chest. And I think the delivery to the forwards has been pretty good today.
Nankervis to Parnell. This time wants to go to the far side.
Oh,
ball ace loses it in the sun. The commentators, far from a commentator's delight, being 200 metres away on that outer side, and Rory Laird allows the ball to just trickle over the boundary line. There's
another indication, though. Someone like Parnell, who's a good kick, backs himself to be able to switch the play, and I think that's something that Adelaide have to do. I think they've really bolstered their kicking stocks over the last couple of years. So you've got Parnell in. Pedler now is fit. He's a really good kick. So the more Hinge comes in, as a recruit who's a really good kick. Rankin this year is a really good kick. We know Rochelle uses the ball really well. So I reckon a couple of years ago, they wouldn't have been all that happy with, their kicking ability, but now they've really built on that in the last couple of drafts. Sligo, another one who adds to that.
Well, there was an example there. Great kick from Parnell. Unfortunately, the ball hit the deck. Still they go. Blaine O'Loughlin butted up again. The yellow team in a relatively strong position. Louis Sharrod, McHenry. He could have a crack from 45, but looks inboard to O'Brien, who's got 2 to beat. Berry front and centre at the crumb. Butts has a mate riding a shotgun in Crouch.
Yeah, good work by Crouch as well. Looks in really good shape, and he's a midfielder. winning the ball in the back pocket. Let's see how they transition now. So Crouch still running. So he got the ball in the back pocket. He's right up alongside Rochelle now and Laser Shepherd. Probably get involved here. He does. In position supporting his teammate Rochelle, who took on the tackler. Yellow team have defended really well here. They've held him up. But the Blues are good enough to get out of it.
Crouch involved yet again. Walker usually exceptional by foot. This time Saligo goes with the one hand. Can't quite bring it to ground, and a good tackle on Mitch Hinge.
Yep, dispossessed him. So the
three
umpire,
efforts.
yep, the umpire said that's holding the ball. So once again, look at Fogarty, the lead. And that time there, it's Isaac Rankin again. So Max Michaelini just gave him a little bit of leg rope there, and he was protecting the goal side of Isaac Rankin, and then Rankin just pushed off, and in 2 or 3 short steps just created a metre separation, and Saligo a good kick. So probably, part of the development for Max Michaelini will be just putting some body on, keeping Rankin off balance, demanding that your midfielders and wingers are down, playing in front of the leading lane of Rankin, so that, they just give you a little bit of cover, and that's some of the areas you can get some support from your teammates.
Pedler front and centre. Rochelle couldn't quite make the contact off balance, but I suppose Rankin would have thought he's a chance from everywhere on the ground. For Michaelini, if you're getting your opponent having a shot hard up against the boundary line, 45 metres out, it's not quite as much of a loss as you might think, even though you are standing the mark and watching the bloke have a shot.
Yeah, look, one of the things you sometimes as a young player, you sometimes tune out and think he's not going to use my man. It's only a 15-metre pass, but what Adelaide have shown today, they're really willing to, if they're 55 out or 60 out, they've used that sort of short lead and had a real willingness to use each other. So that's a bit more confidence in your ability to execute that kick as Taylor Walker flies for the ball comes to ground, and he's very clever. That one there just snapped around the corner. So Walker's once again showed his class. He's a multiple goal kicker as well.
He's got 4 by a very loose count.
Yeah, so he's got 4. I reckon Rankin's got 4. Pedler's hit the scoreboard. Fogarty's probably the only one that's yet to cash in.
He's had a couple of shots, but hasn't made the most of what you'd traditionally expect from Darcy Fogarty. Hope you're enjoying the stream here from Richmond Oval. Theo Doropoulos and the thoughts of Premiership captain Mark Bickley-Bix. It's fantastic to hear your insight into the game as a coach, as a player, as an expert. Really are privileged to get someone who knows the game inside out to share what Adelaide's doing and what you're seeing here this afternoon.
Yeah, the interesting thing around Adelaide's midfield here as we look at, Berry, who else is in there? You've got the ruckman in Himmelberg, Matt Crouch, Rory Laird. They've gone for a quite small dynamic sort of mix in there. Rankin's been in there, Rochelle was in there and then ran out again. So it's going to be interesting to see when you play some of those teams, Carlton with Cripps, the Western Bulldogs with Bontempelli. Do they back those sort of more nimble players who are going to try and get after the opposition? Or do they think, we need a bigger body to compete with those guys, and they have a look at someone like a Haitley or a Tyler Brown. So that's going to be interesting to see, how Adelaide try and sort of combat some of those teams that have those big-bodied mids, a Petrarca and an Oliver.
Yep.
Or do they say, we're going to back in our little guys to run those guys off their feet?
Yep. Well, not long till round 1, Bix. We're talking a month, and then GWS has to put up their best.
Yep.
Then you're looking at Richmond at home, round 3 showdown, Fremantle and Carlton. So
4 of the first 5 at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, and Adelaide will get a pretty stern test early on, and then a good understanding of where they're at compared to Richmond and a couple of teams looking to push into the finals, of which, of course, Adelaide take a big step forward. 2022, speaking to Adam Kelly, as Himmelberg, can he gather at ground level? Under pressure from Scholl, and Miller with a cool head finds Smith. Adam Kelly saying that 2022 was always going to be the hardest year, designed as the hardest year, where Rochelle was new. We got guys playing, in their earlier stages of their career now. Thilthorpe another year on. Rochelle's got a few games under his belt. So you'd like to start to see some of the fruits, which of course we're starting to see here, and it's great to know that 2023, Pedler fitter, a few guys fitter, Miller are back.
Yeah. Well, and they exposed a lot of those younger players as well. Just just talking through the last couple of plays there, Rory Sloane, gut running, 2 bounces. I think the fans would love seeing that. You know, people say he hasn't got great pace, Rory, but I'll tell you what he has got. He's got an appetite to work really hard. And as you see now, players get tired, and you don't have to be quick, but if you're running at really good speed and you've got great endurance like Sloane, you can still work hard and get the ball in your hand. So that's really positive news. We're watching Elliot Himmelberg here. Just a little knock on Elliot. There was a quick transference of play where Haitley worked out that Rolly O'Brien was going to be one-on-one in the goal square. Himmelberg as the ruckman has got to work really hard to be back there and to be able to, be that extra player for Adelaide as a ruckman to be able to impact that contest. In the end, Rolly O'Brien drops a mark, but it was still a one-on-one contest. And if Himmelberg's going to play on the ruck, that's what you've got to see. He's got to have that work rate to be able to understand if that ball's going in quick, that he's got to get there and impact that contest, as Adelaide have manufactured another set shot on goal.
So Sam Berry, Matt Crouch involved in that chain. Berry kicks from just inside 50 with a breeze probably in his face a little bit and sets it to the top of the square. And Rankin from the goal line in midair
volleyed it.
Puts another one through. Well, it doesn't matter how many hard goals, really, does it, Bix? You'd much rather kick the easy ones than the hard ones, and Isaac Rankin certainly got himself to the right spot today. He's been a star.
Well, if you polled, the 2,500 people that have turned up today, as they walk through the gate, you would have asked them, what do you want to see from tonight's match? I reckon a lot of them would have said, I want to see Isaac Rankin and show us what he can do and what he's capable of, or he's kicked 5 goals already and we're 2.5 quarters in. Yes, he's played on the number 1 team, but he's just shown he needs a couple of half chances and he can make you pay on the scoreboard. That one there got himself in the really good position again. He's already crumbed a couple of goals and kicked, I reckon, 3 of his goals from the goal square. But just that's part of the art, though, isn't it? Getting yourself in the right position, understanding where the ball's going to be, and that's a massive fillip for Adelaide so far. The other thing I've been impressed with, Schomburg's gone to the yellow team, and the yellow team, most of those guys in the first half really struggled to make an impact, even though Schomburg is on the less dominant side as he finds the ball again.
Oh, well played.
He's probably been in this
time and allowed traffic to pass.
In this third quarter, he's probably been the best midfielder on the ground, even though he's in that sort of less dominant team. So
there he goes again.
Really good sign for Harry Schomburg.
Shoal Newchurch runs into a blonde brick wall in Himmelberg, who stretches the arms out to say, where was the free kick? Here goes Crouch. Has Brown tracking him, and there's probably where you're talking about, Bix, is you'd like to see Crouch burst away and get that on the boot, but still no damage done, and in a bit of space is Thilthorpe waiting underneath and takes a good grab with some traffic coming his way in the way of Jack Madgen, who's on the ground for the first time.
Yeah, got the eyes darting again. This has been a real focus for Adelaide.
Tough side to kick a goal from out in the open.
Yeah, it looks like Adelaide are always trying to put their teammate into a better position. So, like his first thought there was quickly before all the defenders get back, can I get one more possession in that gets me into the goal sort of lane, which is that sort of within a better than 45-degree angle type sort of shot from 30 to 40 metres out. We've seen him do that fairly regularly today, and that's why, because when you're having those shots from those wide out areas, it's a much lower percentage. You get them into the corridor within 35 to 40 metres, and most AFL players are able to kick that more times than they miss. So just looking to get them into the high percentage areas.
So around 2 minutes left in this third term, 25 minutes flat. Been playing here this afternoon. Jordan Bunce drops back into the hole, gets a good call from Will Hamill.
Just once again, just a little bit sloppy by foot, just has to tidy that up, Butts. At least he looked inside, they got the switch of play, and that's exactly what Adelaide are looking to do. Get the ball out into space. They've been able to switch that. Rochelle wins it, plays on, and all of a sudden they go the length of the ground, and Darcy Fogarty gets on the end of it. Oh, Rankin.
Fly from Rankin. Oh, McAdam.
Yeah.
He's nearly done it again.
Who's that? One of the players down there, just stretching the calves. Might have a little touch of cramp.
Rankin again, just getting involved Well, he's trying to take hangers. He's trying to snap goals. He's done everything this afternoon.
Oh, it wasn't a great kick by Newchurch. Tumbled, but nice take there, Jay Boyle.
Dawson attacks. A couple of cool heads combined. Sloan gets a 1-2 from Worrell and then runs into some trouble with McHenry.
She gave him an eternity of time.
He did have a bit of time. I think that's the veteran's grace. Nankervis runs away with a bit of speed from Walker under some pressure from Rankin. Himmelberg, Dawson, Laird, and the blue team are out once again. Fogg calling for it. This time McAdam flies but can't quite bring it to ground. Parnell finds a target across goal in Mark Keane.
Yeah, so Keane, I guess we get an opportunity to see what he's able to do today. Of course, he'd still be acclimatising, having played hurling for the last, the last time he turned out, he was over in Ireland. So there's a fair acclimatisation period. He'd been training for a week or two. As the yellow team, as we tick over into the last 10 seconds of this third quarter, they'll probably wind the clock down. So there you go, blue team again. Okay, here we go. We've just back watching the Crows. We've just started again. We've just had a special guest arrive as looks like
Tariq
yellow team
Newchurch.
we got on. We've got Ebony Marinoff join us. Eb, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Beautiful afternoon for some footy.
Yeah, it is indeed. Although the players mightn't agree with that because it looks pretty hot out there. As it might have been Tariq Newchurch got himself a goal, which is some nice work there. But tell us about how you're going at the moment. Where are you at? Is it? Well, I've lost track of when the girls are playing. Is it pre-season? Where are you at?
Nah, so we don't get into pre-season until about April. But no, I had ankle surgery just before Christmas. So I'm in the thick of rehab, nearly at the back end of that. So no, but it's exciting to, I guess, have the summer off. And
yeah. How did it go? The surgery all good?
Yeah, all good. Yep. Got a new ankle, a couple of screws, but yeah, no, I'll be all good and ready to go for pre-season.
And of course, the Sanford W kicks off very, very shortly. How many girls have we got from Adelaide playing in that competition this year?
Yeah, well, it actually starts tonight, but we've
exactly,
got about 11 girls.
The launch earlier this week, and 11 girls. So, and predominantly some of the younger players, perhaps, potentially?
Yeah, I think just the fact that they didn't play the whole season, you want to get games into them, and unfortunately with our season, it's only 10 to 12 games. So if they can get back and play some sample, it's always great.
Okay, well, let's cast our eye here, and we're just watching the blue team, who have been pretty dominant all afternoon as Brodie Smith takes an intercept mark. Matt Crouch has been busy. I guess when you watch, what are you looking at? Do you quite specifically watch midfielders, or you just enjoy all of the game when you're watching this type of footy?
I think this is a little bit different, just given the situation that the blue and the yellow team in. But Isaac Rankin's put on a show for us tonight, so it's been nice to see him in the Crows colours finally, and I'm sure all the fans are going to get excited to see him this season. Yeah,
it's been good there as Rory Laird comes out of that play, gives that. Unfortunately, the handball went to ground, but there's a nice bit of delivery there, and I just wonder whether it's probably the player's sweaty. The ball gets a little bit sweaty. You'd know all about that, Ebony, and sometimes the ball can go to ground. Rory Sloan, been impressed with him. Oh, the umpire's caught holding the ball. He let him go a little bit earlier on.
God, Sloaney's done well to get back. I think he's just hit the
10-month
mark. Yeah, spoke to him the other day, and he just ticked over the 10-month mark and ready and roaring to go, as you can imagine. He's been kicking himself to get back out. Yeah,
it's been great. And I guess pretty selfless as well. He decided that he's going to stand down as captain. And Mitch Hinge from deep in defence, beautiful kick, got back through the middle of the ground. Hately was able to get the ball and get it onto the outside. As Adelaide, the blue team there, were able to affect that spoil, working inside a phone box there, but they've taken it over the behind line, and they'll see if we can see anything as they bring the ball back in here from this kick in. So Brodie Smith is the man who's got it. We'll see what he does. Who else you been impressed with tonight, Ebony? You've watched the whole game,
Yeah, yep, been up in the stands. I mean, Isaac Rankin's clearly a standout, but I've been really impressed with Jake Saligo. I think he's going to be an absolute player for this footy club. as well as Chase Jones. I think he's found himself on the wing a little bit more. He's probably played a half-back and across the wing over the previous years, but he seems to have potentially locked down that spot.
There you go. Just might have been, can't pick that player up. There's Lockie Gallant potentially there. Gets received a nice little handball and put that through. Just Taylor Walker, a little bit disappointed. He came up, presented, took the mark, just wheeled around thinking that from the kick-in he might have had some free players behind him, but didn't like the options that were presented, wasn't able to find a player, and that turnover then went back the other way, and Adelaide were able to score a goal. So interested to see, Ebony, we've looked at the midfield mix and some of the players that have gone through there, but we've also used a number of ruckmen for the blue side. So Riley O'Brien has gone off the blue side. He played in that team in the first half. And this second half, we've seen Adelaide trial both Elliot Himmelberg and now Riley Thilthorpe. So maybe a suggestion they're looking for, a little bit more versatility in that ruck position and a little bit, I guess, more involvement around the ground.
Yeah, I mean, you see Riley O'Brien at full forward for the yellow team, so a little bit different, but I think it just adds another string to, I guess, our system at the footy club, and you got to try things. Otherwise, there's stay stagnant and no change, and we need to start winning some games. Yeah,
look, I guess it takes a little bit of pressure off Riley Thilthorpe. You can be that big, tall forward, and you have a lot of attention in your front half. So when you get up in the ruck, we know he's got great aerobic capacity. He can get on his bike, he can run around and get some touches, as we see holding the ball decision there. Looks like Sam Berry's in the yellow team now, and he's got up pretty quickly. Got that ball out to, looks like, is it Riley Clamp, who's one of the top-up players for Adelaide. Tell you what, the players having set shots from this part of the ground haven't had a lot of success. So he just saw Tim Silvers, who walked past and had a quick chat with us up here, and he's been out on the ground. He said the breeze is a little bit stronger than potentially what it feels like from up here in the grandstand. So we'll see what happens here as he puts it to within a couple of metres from goal. Whistle on play. He might have kicked that, not sure. There was Lockie Gallant, was it? Might have been a free kick. He's taken advantage.
Well, he's the lone goal scorer for the yellow team today with 3.
Okay, well, there you go. It's not a bad performance. Scoreboard not quite reflective of what's actually happening today. Matthew Nix has sometimes created some scenarios. They've tried to, the yellow team, to play some slow play and defend the lead. The blue team have tried, they've set up a scenario where they were 10 points behind, tried to move the ball quickly and see if they could score quickly. So that's the beauty of this style of trial match. You can manipulate sort of how the game unfolds. How much work have you done sort of in the AFLW in terms of being able to understand the different sort of timings of play in games?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it's the scenarios. I think we saw early on, Blue had, I guess, 5 minutes to win the game and they were down by 10 points. So I think you're just going to, I guess, win the game instead of save the game. Yep. So we do all sorts of different scenarios. But, yeah, I think the boys have another game against Fremantle, which is game scenarios as well, and then they'll have the full hit out against West Coast. So they've got a couple of games to, I guess, try new things. And like you said, players have switched teams and things like that throughout tonight. Yeah,
so just saw Elliot Himmelberg come back into the ruck, got quite a good tap there. Got it down to Matt Crouch. He's won a free kick. Crouch goes short. Finds Wayne Miller. Probably haven't quite seen as much as him as we were hoping tonight. Matthew Nix gave him a huge rap during the week, but I think he's going to play across half back, and someone with his poise and composure and ball use is going to be invaluable for Adelaide.
I mean, it's just great to see that he's come back from his injury and to be able to put 2 years of work into your body and I guess have it fail you. But yeah, I don't think he's missed a session this pre-season, so that's a win. And yeah, Crows fans love the way Junior goes about it, and hopefully we see a lot of him this year.
So we've got a boundary throw in on the outer side, I should say. Looks like the yellow team, Strawn able to win that. Going forward again, Tom Duday, he's parked himself in front of Lockie Gallant this time, takes a timely mark. I reckon they'll be looking to see if they can get the ball off the line, switch play. Talked a little bit about Jordan Butts trying to be a bit more attacking with his play, sort of got off his man and tried to get a little bit higher up the ground. So just trying to add that to his game, I think, Ebony.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of, I guess, Nick Murray coming into the side and having a couple of years of development might actually allow Jordan Butts to not just be that main key man. And then Josh Worrell, who we saw play games last season, will hope to lock down his spot in the back line.
For sure, as we see the ball right in front of us here in the commentary position. Himmelberg there trying to farm it out to McAdam. Saligo again, he's really clean below his knees. Schomburg back on the blue side now, was able to get it out in front of McAdam. McAdam with a handball over his head. A little bit of Hollywood there. And the yellow team finally were able to turn the ball over. See, might have been in the back there. Yellow a little bit lucky or unlucky not to get a free kick. We'll see a stoppage by the look of this. So this will be a really good test for Elliot Himmelberg. Riley O'Brien has pushed up. He's now going to take the ruck for the yellow team. And Himmelberg is competing for the blue team. Let's have a look at him. Yellow team win the ball down. Haitley to Berry. Berry gets it moving forward. Riley Clamp again. Had a shot on goal before. He tries to get the ball moving. Not his best kick there. Jack Magden gets the ball up. Mitch Hins now. We know he's got a beautiful left foot. And that's what he brings to the table. That's a beautiful kick. Just the composure to wait for someone to present to him, and that player was extraordinary. Wouldn't be surprised if he might give it back to Mitch Hinge, but no, he's decided to have a shot. Has he got that in him, Ebony, do you think?
I think it'll be tight. But no, I think both Riley and Shawnee have been working on their goal kicking. As you've seen today, the team's being switched up. Nixie's keen to see, these big boys kick some goals and get forward. And
look at that. Why did we doubt him? He's flushed that. And he's been a really good addition to the Adelaide Footy Club. One of the best and fairest for the Crows Samful team. And you sense that if something were to happen to Riley O'Brien, and he had a run up at it or a number of games in a row, you think that Strawny would be able to hold down that position, but he's probably lacked the opportunity. But I tell you what, he's a very popular member of the team, and he's worked really hard on his craft, and he's improved enormously. But I guess just through lack of opportunity, he hasn't played more AFL games. So if he adds that to the mix, which is taking a mark and going back and be able to finish really well, it does sort of give him another string to his bow. So we'll watch that and see if he can continue to improve that part of his game. As we go back to the centre bounce, Schomburg, Laird and Rochelle in there for the blue team. And Riley Thilthorpe rucking as gets an opportunity to go up against Riley O'Brien. Nice bit of work there. Got the ball down. O'Brien to Zach Taylor, who's had some impressive moments this year. Just watching there. Ball bobbling around. No one really able to get it out. As Schomburg gets another touch. He's been impressive. Rochelle out to Hamill. Hamill gets it up forward and a running jump. Looks like McAdam again, and just good ball use. How good is it that Luke Pedlar's finally been able to get his body right? He's had a really good pre-season. He's got some weapons with his speed and his beautiful left foot kick. Yep.
Nah, he's super exciting, and he's been at the club for a couple of years now, and you feel sorry for a player with such talent that just tries so hard and just can't get their body right, and it just lets them down. But yeah, we speak about Junior getting his body right. Now we've got someone like Luke Pedlar. We've got some talented players who are just finding their way at, I guess, AFL level. And the training demands is hard, and it's a lot. And sometimes it takes times for your body to adapt to the training loads and even the playing. I remember speaking to Jake Saligo when he came into the AFL system, and he said the speed is like no other. It's uncomparable when you're talking about Samful. So yeah, it's a lot different, and it's a lot harder on the body. Yep,
and he had some serious injuries. Had a shoulder injury in his first year, and then some groin issues last year, and once again the value of someone like a Darren Burgess, who you go out and watch training. Almost every player on the training track at the moment, and now Pedlar's had a couple of years to get his body right. He's got some miles in his legs now, and just see the penetration on his kick. We saw it in the final series last year at Samful level, what he was able to do, and it just adds another dimension. Around 6 foot, so he's a nice size. He can take a mark, and he's got that beautiful left foot. So just gives Adelaide some options there. Riley O'Brien got the the hit out there and got the ball to ground. So Riley Thilthorpe now has to try something a little bit different. Doesn't look like he's going to out-jump Riley O'Brien. Just has to be a little bit more movement, which he did that time. Got his hand on that, got the ball down. And I think this is maybe what Adelaide are looking towards is Thilthorpe gets his hand on it, is competitive in the ruck, but then when the ball hits the ground, they really want him to get busy. Ball goes down long for the yellow team. Brodie Smith gives a really good contest there. Gets it down, looks like Ben Keys. Keys gets it to Worrell. Worrell out in front of McAdam. Oh, nice little shimmy there. Gets himself free. There's the pace again from Pedler. Was able to run and get himself in a really good position. Fortunately, ran himself into a bit of trouble, but just the work rate to get on the end of it just shows he's got some miles in the legs. And unfortunately, Adelaide weren't quite able to maximise that chance. And looks like the yellow team are going to come away with it. That's Borlase, goes long. O'Brien and Thilthorpe dueling on the wing. Looks like might be Gallant again with his hand on it. Just the yellow team now, Ebony, just starting to possess the ball a little bit. This is good work from some of these young players, getting an opportunity to show what they can do. There you go. I think that's Tariq Newchurch again. Kicked the goal early in this last quarter. I think he's got a second one now. Had much to do with Tariq?
Yeah, I think he's an extreme talent, and it's, he's probably finding his way. I think him and Shane McAdam spent a lot of time on the sidelines in pre-season just due to injuries. So
yeah.
If he can get his body right, I mean, he's got talent, and we've seen that at SANFL level. I think a lot of Crows fans last year were asking when he was going to debut. He had some really good form at SANFL, but it probably just comes down to consistency, and sometimes for younger players, I guess that doesn't quite come for a couple of years, but he's got some talent, and he excites Crows fans, and hopefully we see him debut one day.
Yeah, it's also about that competitive nature, isn't it? It's a really tough position to play as that small forward. We know he's got great speed and is able to finish really well. You've also got to get out the opposition and create, pressure so that you can, help turn the ball over. And I think that's, what they're looking for. That consistency. It's consistency of effort and pressure and all those things in his game. So, hopefully he gets some confidence out of what he's been able to do in this last quarter, bringing a couple of goals to the table. There's Thilthorpe getting involved. Nice handball to Saligo. Saligo gets the ball on his boot. Yeah, there we go. Himmelberg trying to compete there. Looks like Tyler Brown, I think, is playing in defence on Himmelberg, is it? No, it might have been Luke Nankervis. Thought it was 21. It was actually 27. So there we go. Yellow team again, winning the ball, getting it coming out. Dawson didn't get a favourable bounce, but he still wins the ball back. He's under a bit of pressure here. 2 fend-offs. He's just able to maintain possession and create a stoppage.
Dawson's looking strong. I think he's spent a bit more time in the gym in this off-season. Super exciting.
Yeah, excited about the appointment?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Dawes walked into the 4 walls, I knew he was going to be a good man and an even better player. Probably shouldn't say that because he's a bloody good bloke, but I think we got a really good one in that one. And all the boys seem to tell me he's the man. They call him Dawes the Horse for a reason, so now he leads the team. Yeah,
look, what I've been impressed with is his calmness. He never looks flustered, and like sometimes that step up into that leadership role, there is a little bit of anxiety that comes with it, but I just think he's going to be able to handle that. He looks like a really calm, mature player, and so far today he's made really good decisions, positioned himself really well. So, I think it's a really good start to his leadership career. As you said, look at Elliot Himmelberg just pleading his case to the umpire. I thought he might have got a free kick there, but none forthcoming. So we continue to see Riley Thilthorpe in the ruck, Elliot Himmelberg up forward. So Thilthorpe versus Strawn. Saligo on ball for the blue team, along with Laird and Rochelle. Matt Crouch as well. So they've got a whole heap of ball winners there. That's what I'm sure Adelaide would want to see once the ball hits the ground. Thilthorpe getting involved in that handball chain, but the blue team done really well. Hayden Kernahan there able to win it. Another top-up player for Adelaide. Get it going the yellow team's way. Strawn found himself on the end of it. He kicked one from a very similar position. That one there partially smothered. So this last quarter, I guess, you know, the players get a bit tired. The yellow team been really competitive, Ebony.
Yeah, it's definitely spent a lot more time in their forward half, and yeah, that could be due to, I guess, a few changes here and there, but well, maybe half the team's top up. So they've strung 3 quarters together and they're starting to find their feet and know where players are and even calling their names.
Yeah, Riley O'Brien there. Wins the ball on the ground. Can't keep it in the field of play, so he's kicked that out of bounds on the full. Jackson Haitley starting to get his hand on the ball a little bit in this second half as well. So he's one of these players who is an accumulator of the footy, and as the game sort of a little bit of the pace goes out of it, he's certainly one who accumulates possession. So he's got a big year this year trying to sort of work his way into that Adelaide midfield as Riley O'Brien aerially shows what he can do. I'd be really keen if I was at Adelaide to see if I could get a handball receive off Riley as opposed to having him kick it inside the forward 50. And then Curvis got around the back, called for it, didn't get it. Ball goes into that sort of dangerous area 15 metres out from goal. A lot of players wanting the whistle to blow for a ball up. Talk to us here, Ebony. You're an on-baller. What are we trying to do? We've got a stoppage? No, the umpire's called holding the ball. I was thinking you were going to give us a little bit of a lecture on how to win a stoppage close to goal and snap one, but it's gone to the blue team. Dawson goes short. Looks like Hamill there. Hamill goes short again. Finds Matt Crouch. One thing we know about Matt Crouch is he's going to accumulate the footy. He's gone predominantly short most times he's won the ball, but they've been able to maintain possession. Crouch to Miller to Rochelle. Don't mind this if you're able to get it into your front half without risking the ball too much. Unfortunately, Himmelberg wasn't able to mark it. And the yellow team attack again. Looks like it's Haitley winning the ball. Berry now almost on the end of that one. Really well sport. Might have been by Crouch. Probably be looking to hold this up. Create a stoppage. Nut back to Miller. Operating in a phone booth there. Gets it back to Crouch. He gets it on his boot. And there's a mark to the yellow team. Can't quite pick up who that is. Bring it back into the middle of the ground. Siegel there, one of the top-up players, trying to win the footy. Gets it onto Hinge on his left foot. That's what he can do by foot. And it's another mark to Tariq Newchurch. And he's had a real purple patch in this last quarter. He's going to be lining up for his 3rd goal. But I think it's Hinge there. Just a little bit of class, isn't it, with the finish. Only had 1 or 2 steps to get on his boot, but he kicked it beautifully.
He's got absolute poise, Mitch Hinge. And, yeah, I don't think Blue have been able to get it into their forward half, so good signs for the yellow team. I mean, the boys look absolutely spent out there. It's been a hot afternoon as well as longer quarters in this match simulation.
And just tug that to the left. I think that's a really good sign for Adelaide. When you look at the players that are most likely going to line up across half-back and wing, it's Hinge, it's Dawson, you've got Smith, Parnell, really good player by foot. You've also got a nice spread of size. You know, Mitch Hinge is 191 centimetres, Brodie Smith's 191, Jordan Dawson's over 190. So all of a sudden you've got these players that are really good by foot, but also can play tall and small. Max Michaelini is another hybrid defender. Even Hamill is, I think he's about 187. So, you know, all got a little bit of size and that ability to play on, you know, if a interchange is made and a taller player comes on, they don't have to throw the side around too much. Rory Sloane, we talked about him. He's accumulating a bit of footy. Wants to get the ball off the line. Instead, looks to down the line. Ball lays there. Came off his man. Affected a really nice spoil. Got the ball over the boundary line. So have a look again at the ruck setup. Riley Thilthorpe taking on Kieran Strawn. Keys on ball now. Matt Crouch. Ned McHenry's pushed up. We've got Riley. Oh, no, sorry. Josh Rochelle. Wins the ball to Laird. Laird back to Crouch. Crouch uses his legs, gets moving, gets the handball out to Ben Keys, who kicks it long. And you mentioned this last quarter. They probably haven't gone forward with the precision that they did in the first quarter. A lot of sort of long kicks to contest, and the yellow team have defended pretty well and been able to wrap that up. And I guess if you're a midfielder, Ebony, like you are, it's so important to get pressure on the ball carrier so that they don't use any precision going inside forward 50.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've found that the yellow defenders have actually pushed up a little bit more and not given the Blues as much freedom, and you can certainly see that.
It's again forcing him back to back pedal. Chain of handballs, gets it on the Keys on his left foot. Oh, really well done there. I think like McAdam, who wins the ball back to Mick Henry, and that's, for me, watching today, has been a noticeable thing that Adelaide have done. The minute they've taken a mark inside forward 50, got back quickly as Mick Henry kicks the ball around the body. Yep, he's pretty happy with that. So they've just tried to get back quickly off the mark before the opposition defence has got set and tried to put someone in a really better position.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like that you've said that, because I've realised that, and they're actually, trying to find themselves a little bit closer to goals.
Yeah.
And still, obviously, I think Isaac Rankin kicked about a couple from party tricks, but just being able to execute, a little bit closer to goal and making sure it's the 6 points and not the one.
And taking the shots from higher percentage areas. So you look at the scoreboard, I know it's been manipulated a little bit for the yellow team, but the blue team have kicked 17 goals, 8, and people will say that's great goal kicking. But as you said, Rankin's kicked 3 from the goal square. There's been a couple of others where they've been able to find someone, 15 or 20 metres out directly in front. So it's really about creating high percentage shots, and what you'll find is that's when you have good goal kicking. When you're forced to kick a lot from the boundary line or snaps under pressure, that's when your goal kicking percentage gets around that 50%, and people start to complain about why teams aren't better at goal kicking. But it's really about the percentage of shots that you're generating. As we see Taylor Walker pushing up the ground, wins the ball, gets it back to Sloan. Schomburg again, he's been impressive tonight. I like that poise too, to be able to get the ball back into the middle of the ground. And now they're attacking on the open side of the ground. Would have liked that kick to hit from Wayne Miller. As the siren blows,